you're a different, like they think you're a different person, like they don't even know you, right?
Yeah.
You're no longer Will, you're somebody else. And
That's like I'm the same person.
Like it's not like you're going and becoming a crack dealer.
Yeah.
You just
I didn't kill anybody.
you in general, your morals are still the same. You're still, leading a productive life and trying to do good, but you just believe in a different way.
The way that it absolutely, I think, hurt me the most was in the sense that my family, not just people like, my parents and, but, my extended family. When I started to say these kinds of things, the worst thing was that they started to devalue my perspective.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, well, he already says crazy stuff, so maybe we shouldn't listen to anything that he has to say. So, that's that. I think that more so than anything, it's kind of like, I was very hurt by that, and it became sort of my fire. Mm-hmm. This isn't something that I easily shut up about because it has such a personal attachment to me that I can go on forever talking about it because I hate it when people try to act like I have no reason to even entertain these thoughts. I only entertain these thoughts because I chose to learn.
Right.
While other people, it's kind of like a person chastising you for not being ignorant for any reason. And it's like that, it's mind-boggling to see that a person can devalue you as a human being for not believing the same thing as them. That's a very dangerous thing in the world because we have a world full of people who believe a variety of different things. There's a person in the Amazon right now who believes in something, who prays to something that you've never heard of.
Right.
And you have to come to grips with the fact that that human being is just as worthy as you.
Absolutely.
And when you start, if you can't even do that to somebody who says, who is of your basic still value system, who's not out here as some menace to society, right, who just lives down the street, and you don't like him because he doesn't believe or he chooses not to believe something that you believe, that puts you at odds with everybody. Yeah. Because now you can't talk to the Hindu. Now you can't talk to the Muslim. Now you can't talk to the person who has some sort of primal religion from some deep in some jungle when you meet them. Because what you're really going to try to do is you're going to try to convert that person.
Yeah.
And that's no good. When I went and talked to this pastor not long ago, I realized quickly that it was an attempt for him to convert me back. And I kind of understood. Like I actually believed that was gonna, happen. A couple months ago, I put out an email to local pastors about me being a non-believer, and I wanted to come talk to them because I wanted to start a conversation with people in their church about, hey, listen, I know that I don't believe the same thing that you don't. I know we don't believe the same thing. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I have to be your enemy. I'm not sure. Like, I don't wish anything ill on you. Yeah. I don't, simply because now when you ask me, well, doesn't that make sense to you? Don't you believe in Jesus? And I say, no, you can't be so offended to the point where you just devalue me as a person.
Yeah.
That does nothing to move humanity forward.
Well,
at all.
No. And it's kind of weird, like, how we used to play basketball on Monday nights.
Yeah.
And, the reason I talked to the guy that used to run it, and we're not allowed to play anymore because he doesn't go to that church.
Yeah. I was there when he was talking about that. Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. Like, his idea of having the basketball was to get, the group of people together. Right. And have people there and enjoy themselves. But as soon as he's cast, he goes somewhere else, he's casted out. We said, no more. Can't do it. You're not part of our group, so you can't have basketball here anymore.
And that's wild, really, because like when I only talked to 2 pastors, and the second pastor I talked to, that was a much more constructive experience, and that actually happened at the Church of the Nazarene over there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That actually, I went over there. It was the first time I went around the other side and was in there, and I was like, "What is this?" This looked like some sort of like posh type of like office space.
Churches are crazy.
I was like, man, y'all got some money,
right?
In here.
Well, they don't have to pay taxes.
But it's much. I know it's very profitable to create a religion. A friend of mine.
You gotta have the book of will. Then you'd be.
I don't even, and that's a friend of mine said. Look, he's like, should we do it? Should we just make a religion? And I was like, yeah, I got to think about it. Because I could write something. I could absolutely write something that people could believe.
Imagine
if you can believe that
snakes
talk, and you can believe that the whole earth was underwater, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I can come up with something even more believable.
Well, think about it. So 10 years, 1,000 years from now, or 5,000 years from now, that you write that book, and somebody finds it, unearths it somewhere, and they think, look what we just found.
And that's the reason
this was a religion from 5,000 years ago.
And that's the reason I said no. I was like, no, I don't want to do this, because that's a real misleading thing for me to be like, here I am, this is the truth, and you shall not mess with the text of this book. And it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't in good conscience do that. Really, watching that Scientology documentary is really what changed my mind on that. Because really, it shows you that in modern times, a pretty good sci-fi writer can create something that people can believe and almost worship him for. So if you can, I'm writing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm a rapper. I not only do that, but I've been writing a book, and I've been writing a screenplay, and I write things naturally. It's always been a strong suit of mine. It's always been a strength of mine. But to be so deceitful, to just be like, hey, you believe what's in this book and give me money. That is to me, that is crazy. It's a wild concept, but it's very lucrative, and it's probably the best hustle that's ever been created.
That's a really good point, because how many times you hear stories of people like they couldn't afford electric, but they were giving money to church on Sunday because they believed they were doing the right thing.
Yeah, people, you can't. These people are about to get put out of their house and stuff, and these people are paying your mortgage and sending you on trips and buying you jets and things like that. And no, I don't have any respect for that, because shortly, would they want to ask, what would Jesus do? No, Jesus would not be riding around in personalized jets.
Would Jesus have 100,000 houses in a country where we have how many homeless?
If Jesus, I tell people all the time, I got closer to Jesus after I stopped thinking he was a real person. When I stopped thinking Jesus was a real person, I had finally gotten to a maturity where I was like, okay, well, what was he really about? And then I'd read little things. I've never read the whole Bible all in all.
I gotta be honest, I read about 2 sentences.
It's hard to get through. It's hard for, I'm about to listen to an audio book or something of the Bible.
I think I probably should.
But and a lot of people say, well, if you haven't read the whole thing, how can you have a perspective? I was like, listen, I don't need to read the whole Bible to tell you that I don't agree with slavery.
No, I've just had a lot of experience. Yeah, right. I just had a lot of experience with people, because the area we're in is very Christian area. So dealing with people, you learn about it just from dealing with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't need to read a book to have conversations with people to understand their mentality.
No, not at all. I don't, and it's not that. I don't think that it would be more helpful to read the whole thing, but life is life, and you only have limited amounts of time. I don't read. If somebody came up to you and was like, hey, why don't you read this 1,000-page fairy tale book and you don't have much time in your life? You'd be like, nah, I don't think I have time for that.
Right.
You know, but they're like, it's not a fairy tale. It's real.
But which version do you read?
There's
multiple versions, right?
That's it. You know, it's so open to interpretation that just in the Mennonite,
right?
Just Mennonites themselves, I think they have something like over 1,000 different denominations of just that. That's how little anybody can come to a consensus about what's really is believed. Over when we were playing basketball. I think it was 1 or 2 times that I had kept Alan, you know.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys, yeah.
And then sometimes other people. One time it was just him and his wife. That got late. Oh man, I came home. My wife was like, you know, basketball ended 2 hours ago. She looking at me like, where you been at? And I'm like, I got into it with these people. It was a very constructive and polite conversation.
Absolutely.
And that's, I like to do that though. Even I started playing basketball on Tuesdays.
But Alan's like that. Alan will have a conversation.
He'll have the conversation. And I started playing somewhere on Tuesdays, and it's a church, and I ended up started talking to the guy who put that together now. You know.
Yeah.
And it's not about. It's never me trying to flex my knowledge over people. It's, hey, I used to believe like you, and I came across certain information that I think is kind of worthy of investigation.
Oh, it's that, and you have a quest to learn, to gain knowledge, and you want to. The more people you talk to, the more knowledge you will gain, and you'll be able to decipher between fact and fiction.
And that's why I really wanted to talk to Christians, because, like I told people, 95% of the people who I love in my life are Christian people.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that the only good people are Christian people, though. It just means that these are, you know, a lot of the people who I care about are Christians. And it's not so much that I want to pull them out, but I want them to understand me enough to not demonize
me. But
it's weird.
If you basically be doing the same thing they are if you approached it in that way.
Yeah.
You know, so you be, you know,
we're both. It's kind of like a tug of war. They're like, yeah, well, you know, we could maybe bring him back in. I think a lot of them are, you know, they're afraid if they have any kind of worth for you. They're like, man, well, you're not gonna make it to heaven. You're going to hell. And I'm like, just like
that's probably like a big worry though to some of them, because they're not going to see you there.
My mother-in-law, that's like
because in their mind, that's
one of her worst fears. Because she's surrounded by non-believers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Her son, her husband, her daughter, her daughter-in-law, her son-in-law. They're all people who are non-believers, and that must be a very terrifying thing. It's very sad to me. It's that she has to go through life with that weight on her, when it's like, look, I'm gonna tell you a secret. Nobody really knows what happens after you die.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's the basis of you know.
Isn't it crazy how ingrained it is in her head?
Yeah.
You know,
it's been visualized,
and that's where it comes from when you learn as a child, because you know we pick up most of our knowledge as children. Yeah. That's when we learn, you know, most impressionable.
Fearing hell to a child can have a very long-reaching effect.
That's crazy.
You know, to think, hey, I got to do this right, or they're going to torture me forever.
Yeah. Can you think about that when you're like 5? Like, you know, like
are you
5
even
or
developed
6?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's all right. The imagery that's kind of put into people, definitely children's head about hell, is far more graphic than if you like sat them in front of Rambo or something like that. It's like, you know, people are like, oh, you shouldn't show the kids something that was this violent. That violent. There's no text I've ever read any part of, and no movie I've ever seen that is more violent than the Bible. When the Old Testament of the Bible is something that a lot of Christians are like, oh, well, that doesn't matter anymore. But it's like the biography of God. It's like tells you how God was just like getting mad and just like destroying whole peoples. He gave Moses, one of the craziest things, he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. It was like, thou shalt not kill. And then told Moses to go kill people. He's like, I'm sure Moses was like, wait a second, guy. You just said don't kill anybody. He's like, no, but they pissed me off. They're over there worshiping cows and stuff. Go kill these people now. And he didn't even just say kill like soldiers. He'd be like, go here, kill the people. Well, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children. And in some cases, he was like, kill even their livestock. Now, how many innocent people have you just, you know what I'm saying? Because no women were fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those are the innocents. No children were fighting.
Right.
Innocents. Right. And livestock, what could they even do? What can livestock even do? So
they can moo at you.
You kill 3/4 of the population that you decimated were innocent people.
Right.
And he's like, leave nothing. I want to erase there. I'm like, this is the most, like,
it's
this
demonic,
guy,
right?
This guy, I can't call it demonic because I don't believe in demons. but still, the fact that you, a non-believing person, refers to something in a demonic sense is still part of a structure that is overlaid on the people.
Right.
And and we see that. And we're like, oh, that's the devil.
It's like cursing, though, right?
It's absolutely like cursing.
Who deemed cursing? Like, who said the F word is the F word? And it, like, who gets to, like, where did that come from? Like, that's a curse word. Sorry, you can't say that. It's a made up word. Who gets
it's just a word. And, you know, to me, you know, when I was a kid, I kind of was like a late cusser because I couldn't cuss openly in my house.
Yeah.
So I was a late cusser. And I remember this one time I got off the bus and somebody did something and I was so mad that I just went like on like a swear torrent. Yeah. I was just going on to anything I could think of. And from that day on, I was a cusser. You know, I cuss for emphasis.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. But that's where that comes from, though. If you think about the cussing, it's people are disapproved of it, so it emphasizes what you're saying, right? You know, and it's like I remember I didn't cuss till I was like 16.
Yeah,
and even though I didn't really believe in the religion part of it, but it was weird because like I still believed in like the not cussing part of it.
Yeah,
it was strange, like how I like growing up part of it is like. Even though like in my mind none of it made sense, I still adhered to it.
Sort of religious,
right? In a strange way.
It's sort of religious.
But then after like 17 years old and like these things, it was open gates.
If you look at the word, if you look at like the etymology of the word religion, what it kind of implies is a binding.
Right.
And that's really what it's about. It's about a binding of a human being into a particular type of human being. And in this world, it's far more easier to control.
Yeah, absolutely.
A docile people who believe that they're not supposed to get any real reward until they die.
Well, we're talking about faith and believing in things. Think about how many things we don't believe. Think about if you went to the store and spent that $1, right? And somebody didn't believe in that $1. Yeah. It'd be worthless.
Yeah.
Everything is based off of belief. Believing in it. You know, I mean, I don't believe in the banking system. I take my money out. Yeah. I don't believe in you know, whatever it is. You know, I was listening to somebody this week, and when he was crazy, it was kind of scary, but it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, but you still heard enough to listen. I like crazy, scary types.
No,
sometimes.
It wasn't. It was just like Mike Pence. You know, very religious, right? So he's the first person, I can't remember how many years, that holds a I forget what it's called, but they basically read from the Bible, you know, in the White House. Nobody's done that in years. But hold on, women aren't allowed to lead the passage. No women are allowed to lead, only the men in the group, and it's made up of men and women. How crazy is that? That's our vice president.
See, that's the kind of stuff that's
nuts.
When I first wanted to talk to you, it was really kind of about that kind of stuff, about the fact that this isn't just from like the this isn't just a problem from a spiritual concept. That's not really this is a problem in the sense that I feel like there are people in this country who are more or less about trying to bring about some sort of a theocracy, to the sense where they really want to take hold of this Christian identity and then want to act as that in the world. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, that can only mean really what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a situation so the end of the world can happen. Mm-hmm. Because that's really the point of all this. All Christians at all times have believed that they lived in the end times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I hear, I listen to a lot of guys, and some of them in conspiracy realm are very religious, and
that affects that. Yeah.
And I listen to them, and they talk about from their perspective of religious perspective, they think that the end game is the apocalypse, and it's from a religious apocalypse, the 4 horsemen or whatever that is, and like all that kind of stuff. And in like their perspective is almost doomier than another guy that's not religious.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of crazy, like, but they still have that belief and faith, and you always say at the end, it's, always believe in God, and he's going to come and he's going to save us all, and that kind of, he's going to bring the people that believed him and are going to go to heaven, right? And the people that don't believe him are going to go hell in the apocalypse, and it's going to cleanse the earth. That's the kind of, I think that's how that works, right?
That's pretty much the basic concept. Everybody's waiting around for Jesus to come back to make things right. Yeah. Because they figure the world is so screwed up that Jesus has to come back in order for things to get right again. I have more of, and maybe some people think this is crazy, but I have a belief in people. I believe that people can change the world. I don't think that you need to keep looking for some sort of Messiah to drop out of the sky. People don't even think about how this would look. What does this look? Can you imagine? They'd be like, the clouds have just opened up and Jesus is ascending, and like there's camera crews there filming this thing, and they're like, here he comes. He's finally his return. But there's people on the earth right now who believe themselves to be Jesus.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people right now who believe themselves to be Jesus. They say, I am the second coming of Jesus.
I think that's how we fall in the trap, though, of looking at our politicians and voting the next one in, thinking he's going to be the savior.
The messianic. That's what religion does to people. It makes you look for a savior outside of yourself,
instead of looking in the mirror and saying, "What am I going to do to make the world a better place?" The
most important thing I think Jesus said in the Bible. There's a story. There's a story where Jesus is about to get like stoned because they're like.
Oh, he's going to smoke pot?
No, he didn't. No, Jesus could never smoke pot.
You're talking about rocks and stuff.
Yeah. If Jesus...
This tells you how much I know about religion.
If Jesus was... in religion, it is customary to stone people. Not smoke them out.
Yeah.
But to stone people. There's actually in the Old Testament, they say, like... There's an actual rule that they say, look, if your child is unruly, if you have an unruly child, you have the right to take him out to the edge of town and stone him to death. Like, what?
Listen, I gotta tell you something. I'm 41 years old, and I've known you for I don't know how many, couple years now.
Yeah.
But we've started conversating more in the last couple months or 6 months, whatever it's been. I've learned more in religion in the last 6 months talking to you than I learned in the last 40 years. And that's kind of crazy to me because I've been in a church and I know a lot of church people.
Yeah.
So it's
and they don't teach you these things. They don't get on the pulpit on Sunday and say these things.
And not just from, I learned more from their side of it and your side of it. Both sides. I've learned from you. So that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to go looking for that knowledge.
That's true.
You go looking for that knowledge. It has to mean something to you, and you have to give it a space in your life. And my whole thing was, I'm going to say this stuff because, like you, there's a lot of people who don't know these things, who haven't. There's a whole lot of Christians. I know a whole bunch of biblically illiterate Christians. I tell him, how do I know more about your book than you? Why do I know more about this than you? Why do I know about this story where David wanted to marry this king's daughter, and I think he like didn't have enough money or something for it.
Yeah.
So the king was like, look, go kill. There's these people. I forget exactly who they were. He's like, go kill. I want you to go take your guys and go kill this dude and go kill his people. And not only did David kill these people, but he brought back, I think it was like 200 foreskins. David cut these foreskins off and just like, if you think about it like a movie, just flops them down in front of the king. It's just like, yo, can I have her now? Can I have her? That's how he got his wife. It's like, this is gruesome. But people don't know these little intricate things because the Bible is huge and it's hard to get through.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
So now my question about that story is, did she love him, or was this like the king sold his daughter off for this?
Yeah, for foreskins. He sold his daughter for foreskins pretty much, and foreskins and death. That's what he's like he
so
didn't.
His daughter probably had a lot of self-worth.
I'm pretty sure that he didn't even know her or nothing like that. He just looked at her. He was like, oh, she looked good or something like that. Like,
that is nuts.
It's like, I'm gonna get, you know what? Can you imagine having that conversation after you slaughtered a whole bunch of men? You're like, what do we do now? Should we go back and tell them what we've done? Better yet, let's slice their foreskins
We're having
off.
that conversation with your daughter. Hey, listen.
He bought me like 200 foreskins. My hands are tied. You're gonna have to go with this deal.
I made a deal. I can't go back.
My hands are tied on this one. I'll see you on the holidays or something.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck with the foreskin cutter.
Yeah, he just killed 200 people.
Now everybody knows. They teach you a certain select things about certain people. David, this is the same dude who they talk about David and Goliath. Everybody knows about David and Goliath.
Yeah.
They know that he slew a giant with a rock in a slingshot.
Absolutely.
They know about that, but they don't know this is the same person who's slicing off foreskins,
so
getting a wife.
Logically, we could do the same thing to a bear, right? We could just take him out with a slingshot.
Let's just start. That's how somebody should have killed Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
How'd he die? Guy came out of nowhere and slung a rock at his head. He said it was biblical.
It was a little person.
Yeah. But that's the thing about it. It's such a large and convoluted book that people don't know what is in there. You know some things that are in there because they get on the pulpit and they teach you these very basic concepts that are going to make you feel bubbly inside, and you're going to be like, oh, yes, this is for me. They don't tell you the other things. And when you're a Christian, you have to take all of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about religion. You have to take it all or it becomes imperfect. And a religion can't afford to be imperfect. Yeah. Because you claim perfection. They said, when I was growing up, they said, this is the inspired word of God. Everything in this book is true. So, for a long time, I didn't test that. I was like, of course, this is the Bible. Of course, everything is true in here. And then you get older and your intellectual mind is like, wait a second. I don't think that you can fit all of the animals in the world on a boat.
Right.
And then you're like, wait, but what does that mean? What's that? And for a child, this is actually like kind of like an agonizing process.
It's almost like if they can think it through, they're thinking this isn't true. So now they're lying to me. So it must be okay to lie.
It's similar to Santa Claus. This is why my kids will never think there's a Santa Claus.
Really?
And the only reason that I did that is because I understood at some point in time that I had been engineered for religion with Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Santa Claus is God. Santa Claus he's an old white guy with a beard, and he's somewhere and he sees everything you do.
Right.
He sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. and you better be good or he's gonna punish you in some way.
At this point, I've decided I'm probably more religious than you are because I do this. We do the Santa Claus thing. Now my son's 9.
I understand. I get it. I understand.
He is at the point where he doesn't believe in it anymore.
Yeah, I get it, though.
I also tell him, listen, you can't,
that doesn't make you religious, though.
No, but it's a religious, a religious idea.
You're trying to acculturate them. Like, you're trying to, like, make you don't want them to be the weird kid in school who they're like, oh, you know what that person said? They said that there's not a Santa Claus. And,
well, I think it's more about being, like, hurting maybe somebody else that believes in it.
Absolutely.
And not ruining their image. You know? Like, I have a granddaughter. She still believes in Santa Claus. And I had to have a conversation with her. I said, listen, you can't tell her. Like, you can't go up to his first time you see her and say, hey, at Christmas time, say, hey, they're going to get our presents for us. He's not Santa Claus. You can't be talking about that stuff.
I remember Cat Williams said, he said, I've worked entirely too hard to have my children believe that there's a white man running around putting presents underneath the tree. Like, and that's the thing about it. It's just like, the only reason why I didn't, because there comes a day when this has to be a real conversation. Right. And like her grandparents, they're still for it because her grandparents are largely religious people. Mm-hmm. Like, so they're still they're like, well, let her, you want to take away her innocence. That's what they say. Right. My son, you want to take their innocence. I'm like, no, I don't want to establish this concept that I will lie to you over something as arbitrary as whether or not there's a guy dressed in red who flies reindeers. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
but it's okay. It's a white lie.
Yeah, it's a little white lie. It's just a white lie. Okay. They're okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought you were a Christian.
Right, right.
But I think that all of those kinds of things, they kind of, even when you look at the concept of Santa himself, I mean, what they call him, Saint Nick.
Right.
So he's a saint. So in some way, he already is religious. You know what I mean? Like his character is. Well, I guess he was maybe a real person. I don't know.
But the fact that a saint though is giving presents. You know what I mean? Like that thought process of he's giving presents, and like there's kids in other countries that aren't getting presents. You know what I mean? Like that's weird. It's like kind of backwards thinking. I thought religion was about giving to people. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to word it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, you feel like it's about giving to those who don't have.
Right.
But if that was absolutely the case, then the people who in the Vatican, you live in opulence and that there's a world of squalor. Like, you understand that there's like
wouldn't all the homeless get the presents?
You understand that there's this impoverishment everywhere in the world. Right. But nobody seems to be doing anything about it. People just act like it makes sense. I'm looking forward to the day, and I know it probably won't be in my lifetime, but I'm looking forward to the day when the world looks at poverty and they're like, wait, why is this necessary?
Right.
Why does this person have to come up through life feeling as though they are worthless?
Right.
That
comes to the same thing about education in the like Baltimore areas and stuff like that. You could grow up, you don't have heat in your school. You got to think that nobody cares that you're getting education. So what are you going to grow up to be?
You're going to go and you're going to become part of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Going in and being in very hood situations, it teaches you a lot about worth and self-worth. And I've seen people, there's a guy I know, when I went to his house, I think for the first time, like I realized that he didn't care. Like they stopped caring. Like they had so little collective self-worth that they lived pretty much in just filth and just nastiness. And I think to myself, I'm like, why does there have to be why does this have to be? I remember my mom, she would always say, she said, well, as long as there's those who have, there'll be people who don't have. And I say that's backwards. That's for stupid people. We're a smart people. We figured out a way. It's going to be really hard to end this civilization. Like, because there's so many different aspects of it. Like, even if the United States was blown off the face of the map tomorrow, what surrounds it and what has been connected to it will continue the civilization.
Right.
And that's, I feel like because of that, this civilization is going to be around for a while. So
yeah,
I think poverty has to be, if poverty isn't the first thing that collectively as people on this planet that if we're not trying to get rid of poverty, then what are we really doing here? If we're not doing that, the only thing that we could possibly be doing here is trying to figure out a situation where a few select people are going to live in extreme opulence, and there's going to just be like this world of people struggling, thinking that life isn't worth it.
Well, the thing about getting rid of poverty, though, is it has to be it's demonized at this point.
Yeah.
You have people that, the old saying of, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you're going to just you got to pull yourself out of there. And until we get over like thoughts of that, I just don't know how. And until we, people, like politicians and stuff are willing to change the way they do things now. I mean, we could take the freaking military budget this year and say, you know what, we're going to spend all our money on poverty. You'd end world poverty tomorrow.
Yeah. That's what
it's
I mean.
Priorities. It's
that's
priorities.
What I mean. If your priority, if seeing to people being put on a level playing field, if that's not really what this is about,
right,
then of course that's why you see such people's cries for revolution and things, because revolution is a weird thing, because revolution is something that takes place in the mind first. Like first you have to have a revolution of mind before anything physical can ever happen, because those people have to change the way that they think, and then they have to be able to congregate and build with each other in a way where they try to upset the status quo, because they usually, you find that the status quo is largely criminal.
Well, I think we go through something in this country where, okay, listen, the poorest person in America, right, it has it better than most countries. Yeah. And I until, when you talk about revolution, there has to be that's true, but there's so many things that go on that we don't know about and that are evil at the top, that we're not impoverished the way a third world country is, but because we are controlled, which I think that's part of religion, is just controlling how we think and how we work, that we just have this idea that we should never have a revolution, because if we have a revolution, we just don't appreciate what we have. Yeah. Well, no, revolutions have happened for many different things.
Absolutely.
And, we have a system that is corrupt beyond, is unimaginable.
It's unimaginable.
And, at some point, are there going to be enough people, though, too, that it was a silly thing was when during the election, and I heard some of my friends be like, well, if certain people don't get elected, I'm gonna go out in the streets and we're gonna be I'm like, dude, you're gonna leave the comforts of your central air house and you're gonna go out and you're gonna revolt? I said, I believe it when I see it. There's no way that stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't believe anybody. There's a lot of people who tend to think like there's gonna be the scenario where it's gonna be them and their friends versus like the army somewhere.
They're all in there with tanks. You got guns.
They're like, I need my AK-47 because, well, they got them. And I'm like, no, what you don't understand is that they have technologies that you will never see.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? They'll hit you with a sound technology from a mile away, and you'll be on the ground like, what happened?
Right.
So it's like that is out. That it's kind of like, to me, I think about,
it has to be an intellectual revolution.
Yeah, it has to be a revolution of mind, because the reality is, I always think about it. Like, I remember when I was younger, like I was never a wrestler or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes like I would try to wrestle wrestlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I would find out is that they were just far more versed in the art of grappling.
Sure.
They knew what to do if I did this with my arm, or if I did that, you know. And in this, if we want to look at this like it's a proverbial like wrestling match between the people and those who control the people, they have you beat in the physical. You cannot fight them physically. Right. That's not how this works. Because if you try that, then you give them reason to just annihilate you.
And I think that's why, and part of the reason why I never think the guns will be taken, because I don't think it matters.
Yeah, people are all worried about it. No,
I don't think it matters, because they're just rolling with the tank into your city. What are you going to do?
What would you do? I mean, if an American city, right, 100 drones in an American city could shut everything down.
But you got to think about that, though. The reason people don't think about that stuff is because we're spoiled.